How's it going, Chads? Welcome back to Browntable. So, I filmed a video about the Rise of Skywalker, and for some reason, my mic is fucked, and so it recorded no audio. So here we go again. So Star Wars. We watched the Rise of Skywalker, and well, I might as well just call it Star Wars, the rise of Star Wars fans hating Star Wars. Again. Now before we begin, I want to say I started a collaboration with fellow YouTubers on celebrating Star Wars. It's a whole playlist linked below, and I talk about the binary sunset, and that actually comes up in the Rise of Skywalker. And now before we begin the video, a word from our sponsors. Have you heard of Raid Shadow Legends? You haven't? Have you been living under a rock? Raid is a turn-based RPG done right. Why do you keep hearing about this game everywhere? Because it's one of the top 3 ranked RPGs on the Google Play Store, and it's just been nominated as a finalist for Google Play's Best of 2019 User Choice Award. This game is sick as hell, with over 400 champions for you to collect and personally customize. And now, Christmas is coming. Want to celebrate? Christmas vibe champions are now in the game. Sir Nicholas, more like Sir Thickolas, Jingle Hunter can jingle my bells. There's also a new fusion event for Christmas with a new champion. You can combine few champions and get a new Christmas-looking champion, Tormund the Cold, a new legendary epic champion from the Dwarf faction. And also, did you know that this bad boy is free to play? So what are you waiting for? Thanks to Raid, you can go on the video description, click on the special links, and you will get 50,000 silver and a free epic champion as part of the new player program to start your journey. This game is genuinely really awesome. I really want to thank the sponsor because now I am addicted to this game. Somebody please help me. Actually don't, because this game is great. I rambled when I filmed this video, and now I am here to ramble again. But I think talking it through actually made me understand how I felt and how I thought about this film. I think Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker is like the Return of the Jedi of the sequel trilogy. And, so it's not as good as the other two, at least that's how I felt. But I actually don't hate it. I actually don't hate any Star Wars movie, and I actually quite liked it. I actually didn't really mind this film too much. But, I'm trying to understand both sides. First off, at the end of the day, I don't hate the Star Wars film again. I think that all of the films in the Star Wars universe prove their existence, or they actually have a story to tell. Even if some of these films are better than others, I feel like all of them still feel like they matter. I think everything is great, but the story. I think the action sequences are some of the best there have been. I think they're all pretty imaginative. I think the final action sequence is very good up until it gets really confusing. The biggest problem would just be the story and the fact that Palpatine is back. I've been noticing a lot of people dislike The Rise of Skywalker because of that twist, oh, Rey is actually a Palpatine, and I don't mind it as much as other people, and I think the reason why is because while I love the idea that Rey comes from nobody, because, it probably would be the hardest thing to hear. It would be, oh, you actually are nobody, so you have to stand on your own. You have no destiny to be shaped. You have to make that destiny. I think that's interesting. But I also do find it interesting that if she's Palpatine's daughter, then she's destined to become evil. Like, that is her destiny, and that's what Palpatine wants as well. She has to choose who she is. She is the one who defines who she is at the end of the day, and she has to make her own journey. And at the end, she chooses it. She chooses her own journey. I think the themes that this film has are great. I think they just aren't executed very well. And that goes into Reylo, the ship that people were kind of clamoring about. A lot of people hate, a lot of people love it. And I do think that, Kylo and Rey have this good chemistry. But this film begins with Kylo Ren being at his most evil. Like, I didn't see him ever doubt himself, maybe thinking that, oh my god, I do want to be with Rey, but it might not end up with her and me being in the dark side. Maybe I'll go into the light side for her. And I don't know how I feel about that. We never had that dilemma. It was just, oh, come with me, I want you to join me. That kind of thing. And it was kind of, it felt out of place when he just randomly flipped to being a good guy. I do think that the scene where he flips to being a good guy is brilliant. I think it's fantastic. I think it's really well done. But I think that, everything before that scene, the build up to that scene, is not very good. And I feel like he should have doubted himself a little more to help the audience understand that he is still conflicted, because at the end of The Last Jedi, he's just straight up like, oh no, I am Supreme Leader, and I'm gonna kill everybody, essentially. So him still doubting himself is something important that the film has to elaborate on, and it doesn't. But I did like the scene of him turning. I liked how it paralleled the talk he had with Han, his father, at the end of The Force Awakens. It was genuinely beautiful. I thought they handled that really well. But, again, I needed build-up. And I do think that when they kissed at the end, I thought that was very out of place. Alright, let's do this one last time. I went to see The Rise of Skywalker again. I needed to know what the heck was going on with my conflicted emotions. After finishing it, I realized that while the film is rather good as its own thing, while it's rather good if it really wasn't a Star Wars movie, it comes after The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, and the biggest problem with the film is that it's not a good sequel. And while I feel like it's a satisfying conclusion visually and even somewhat in a self-contained way, it's not very satisfying when you consider it being part of a trilogy, and definitely not when you realize it's meant to conclude an entire 9-film saga. The film actually takes some stuff from The Last Jedi and completely rewrites it, and it isn't expanding, no, it's reconfiguring and redacting to prevent further fan backlash. Because as we all know, a substantial amount of Star Wars fans don't like The Last Jedi, and that's totally fine if you hate the film for film-related reasons. For some reason, The Rise of Skywalker doesn't have the balls to say, no, we're going to scrap what The Last Jedi did. It goes, we're going to both agree with The Last Jedi, but also do our own thing. On the conclusion, it's really weird that Palpatine needs Rey, because she's this super strong, powerful Palpatine. By the way, this bothers me. It isn't that Rey is super strong because she just is, it's because she's a Palpatine. I digress. Now, Rey's a Palpatine, so that's why she was so bothered and conflicted in The Last Jedi. It wasn't her self-doubts and insecurities, her wanting to save people because it's what she believes to be the Jedi way, but she's just one person in a massive war and genuinely comes from nothing. It's just that, she's meant to be evil, so she's struggling with that. And again, if it was written better, I would be totally fine, but the original trilogy already did that with Luke, and it was better. And now if Rey being Palpatine's granddaughter was something that they wanted to write, then that should have been the case the entire time and be written that way since the start. It's very obvious that while J.J. Abrams, who just so we're clear had pretty much limited involvement in The Rise of Skywalker because Disney, he can write, okay? He just loves to do this mystery box bullshit, which is fine and dandy if you know what the secret is and write the story around that secret. You can't just have a mystery box, but you yourself as the writer don't know what the fuck is in the box.
What's in the box? What's in the fucking box?
Also, can I just say that again? While I adored the final fight with Palpatine visually, and I dug the trust between Rey and Ben, it's one of my favorite scenes in all of Star Wars actually. The scene where she gets the lightsaber and puts it behind her head and it disappears. That thing is fucking awesome. But then Star Wars decided to pull an endgame and they had Palpatine say, I am all the Sith instead of I am inevitable, and Rey said, and I am all the Jedi instead of,
and I am Iron Man.
Now this leads me to believe, as so many are already thinking, that this film was heavily rewritten, and of course I feel like those lines were not there from the start, and also that this film is actually watchable and enjoyable at times, but it's still a mess. Now the pacing is so fast, it's like everything is being done way too quickly and everything that's being done is stated but we never really see it actually happen. You know how in Star Wars that there's the very obvious transitional fades that go across the screen when the film goes from scene to scene? They are a lot faster and a lot less apparent here. And why? Is because for some reason, the film never gave itself the time to properly film establishing shots like half the time. The film never has many moments to breathe. I absolutely loved that one scene where Poe and Zori were talking on the roof of Kijimi. It was such a relief. Now that's a really odd scene, but I also love how Rey is talked to by a child, and they have this convo where Rey has like no family name, and I think people who dislike this film are purposely avoiding the new story they're trying to tell of Rey, that it isn't about her not being anyone, like I said way earlier, it's about her being manipulated and used for the betterment of her own family, and she herself has to choose what she wants her life to be and choose what her true family is, the Skywalker family, and I think that's a great story. I just think it wasn't handled as well as it could have been. Though the elements are there, they needed a push, and ultimately though, I think it detracts from Rey as a character a bit, because again, it means that Rey's strong because of the blood that runs in her veins, and not just because some random people can be strong in the Force too. And it also kills the idea that anyone can join the conflict. But I will say on one plus side that, Star Wars is supposed to be a space opera, and this is probably the most operatic Star Wars has felt in a while. Also, I find it hilarious how they kept Rey's parents selling her, but they didn't realize the implication of the parents making money by giving away their daughter to keep her from the Emperor. It's kind of, it's just funny. I don't know. Anyways, Ben Solo. Ben Solo, or Kylo Ren, is easily the best part of the sequel trilogy, and he fucking dies in this movie. And it's really random, and also literally nobody cares that he died. It's genuinely so abrupt. I was like, okay, he'll come back as a Force ghost, right? No, he never appears again. My boy Ben is forgotten, and I've been reading people say that he's actually meant to live, but then they rewrote and reshot it and killed him off, and actually if you pay attention to the hair, supposedly, of the scenes, this is actually true. Now these are all rumors obviously, but the way the scene is edited makes me believe it's plausible. By the way, Luke's badass final line in The Last Jedi, which is also Luke's final line when he's alive, is "See you around, kid."
See you around, kid.
Luke never sees Ben around in the movie.
No! You tell me that's not true.
So Ben, obviously, needed more time to grow into a good guy. He just randomly flips in the film, and while I loved that he did, I wish it was done more smoothly. Speaking of flipping, Oscar Isaac really wants Finn and Poe to be gay. And honestly, at first, I was like, alright dude, it's not the writer's intention though, so you can't really do much. But after seeing the movie, oh my god, this is either the best written bromance or just a straight up romance waiting to happen. It makes total sense, especially considering that Finn never got to tell Rey that he loved her. And I've been hearing that J.J. Abrams wrote that Finn wanted to tell Rey that he was Force sensitive. And then even John Boyega puts in a tweet that Finn wanted to tell Rey that he was Force sensitive. Why would that be your potential last words to someone when you might die? It's like if you and a pal are dying in quicksand, instead of saying, "I love you," or "You're my best mate," you say, "Dude, I can read."
No! Just throw it all away, No!
Also, Rose is not a character I just, gush over by any means. I thought she was fine in The Last Jedi. But Rose had nothing to do in this movie, and it was very obviously written that way. And honestly, at first, I didn't mind, because it's smart storytelling to not indulge in writing multiple characters for no reason, when you can have just one character do the things another can, up to a certain point, of course. But what was funny is that I completely forgot that the film did do that, with this character, Beaumont Kin, who literally could have just been Rose in the movie. He didn't need to exist at all. He brought nothing at all, and could have just been Rose's character the entire time. And for some reason, a billion-dollar corporation is afraid of Rose so much that fucking Beaumont Kin has more about him in the Star Wars visual dictionary than fucking Rose, one of the main characters in a film. That's absolutely ludicrous. Thank you, Houston Productions 1, by the way, for finding this. Anyways, the movie deserved to either be way longer or 2 films, as my pal Robbie from I Am That Robbie stated, because it has so many ideas, and honestly the ideas are not half bad. They just needed more time to develop. Like Palpatine. And Palpatine being the main antagonist of a film that just came from a film that pretty much got rid of the past to step into the present is really weird. And it can still work, but I can't say I wasn't laughing when the movie's title started rolling and it literally says, "Oh yeah, Palpatine voice messaged the entire galaxy that he's just gonna mess things up again." It was so weird. When you consider 2 films in the sequel trilogy are about uncovering the past and how amazing it can be, yet at the same time it's not what it seems and everything is in black and white, especially galactic politics, we come to the Rise of Skywalker, whose commentary is nothing. And it's satisfying to a certain extent because it does feel like the end, but it never really has anything to say on its own, and it only ties up things that were left off in previous films, and that's really it. Like I said earlier, Star Wars is getting dangerously close to just having nothing to say, and it's all about making money. And that's honestly really sad. I feel like Disney had a lot to do in this film, if you know what I mean. J.J. Abrams, this doesn't feel like a J.J. Abrams film. It doesn't. It feels like so much was cut out, and it's really strange. And what I feel like was cut out are those moments of, pause. The one thing people keep saying is missing. Because you know what happens in moments of pause? Story. And that is what I feel was kind of missing from this film, and that's what I think affected this film the most. So yeah, this was my opinion. Thank you guys for watching, and remember to be nice to each other, because this film is causing a lot of controversy. Thanks for coming to the table, and I'll see you all next time.